Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Makwana and today we are speaking everything that has to do with NRF application, which is your National Research Foundation. So the applications are opened and I think this is a great time to be having this discussion so that you guys do work on your applications to avoid late submissions. So if you haven't subscribed, this is your opportunity to hit the subscribe button because we are so close to that 1,000 subscribers and that would really make me excited. So let's get straight into the video. Okay, so what is the NRF? As previously mentioned, the NRF stands for the National Research Foundation. It is a South African government funding specifically for research-related activities such as your research projects, your dissertations, or your research reports. So if whatever that you are studying does not involve any of the mentioned activities, then you are definitely not eligible. So that means all undergraduate studies, regardless of the NQF level, are not eligible for NRF funding. All postgraduate certificates, all postgraduate diplomas are not eligible for NRF funding, and all professional doctoral degrees and professional master's degrees are not eligible for NRF funding. However, you need to go to the NRF website to understand what a professional master's and a professional doctoral is, so that you know whether or not to apply. So in essence, that is what NRF is and what it is for. Now, let me extend a little bit further on the eligibility criteria, meaning who can apply and who cannot. So NRF has first entry age limit, which means the age you need to be the first time you are applying. For honors, you need to be 28 years and younger. For masters, 30 years and younger. For doctoral studies, 32 years and younger. So that means if you are above those ages, then you cannot apply for a particular level. For example, if you're 29, you cannot apply for funding for honors. If you are 31, you cannot apply for masters, and if you are 33, you cannot apply for doctoral funding. So this is the age you need to be having the first time you are applying. I hope that makes sense. Now, further on the eligibility, your family income, combined income, must be less than 350,000. So as I've mentioned, this is a South African government funded scholarship or funding. Therefore, South Africans are prioritized. However, international students who have 75% and above are considered for partial funding. So there are two types of funding you can receive from NRF. There's a full cost funding and then there's a partial cost funding. The information is there on the NRF pages or on the NRF website. I must say this, it's actually very easy to get an honors NRF funding than it is to get a funding for master's or PhD. And even if you do, you're most likely to get partial. Hence I'm doing this video so that you guys know exactly what the NRF is about, you know. So with the full cost funding, you get the full amount for that scholarship, and with the partial funding you get half of the full scholarship. For example, I forgot the amounts, I need to check them. Okay, so full cost for honors is 150,000, full cost for masters is 169,000, and full cost for doctoral studies is 178,000. So you just divide those by 2 and then you'd get what you would be awarded should you get a partial funding. And in addition to that, they also get like 10 to 20,000 rands for laptop or assistive devices. And yeah, so even if you do not qualify for a full scholarship, like you do not have your 75% merit, you can always use the financial need assessment form, which is on the application, to kind of argue why you should get a full scholarship despite not having the average that they're looking for. And which brings us to the next eligibility criteria. You need to have at least an average of 65%, not 64.5. I've seen cases where students would, because I've worked in the research office before, where students would come to the research office and be like, but I've got 64.5. Why are you not considering that 65%? don't be the statistics. You need to get at least 65% to be able to get NRF funding, whether honors, masters, or PhD, you know. So make sure you at least get the 65% so that you can at least qualify for a partial funding. It's not bad money. It will cover school fees. It might not cover like food and accommodation, especially if you're staying in an expensive accommodation, but it does cover some basics. Yeah, that is the eligibility criteria. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. If I do, please remind me or remind others in the comment section. So now let's get into the closing dates. Like I said, applications are currently opened for honors. The closing date is the 24th of November. For masters and for first-time masters and first-time PhD applicants, the closing date is the 11th of July. Now, pause for a moment and listen to me carefully. These are NRF closing dates. They are not university closing dates. Now, with NRF, the applications, they go straight to the university before they go to the NRF. So that means if you apply at WITS, let's say you say on the application, I want to study at WITS. WITS has a closing date for NRF, which is different from the one that NRF gave, which is the 11th of July. NRF might say, WITS might say, we're actually closing on the 24th of May. So you need to make sure that you go to the university that you are intending to apply for and check the closing date for NRF and make your submission before that date. If not, you will not be considered because the university will have to screen the applications and check who's eligible before sending out the applications to the NRF. And if your application is received after the closing date, you are automatically unsuccessful. And this is how I did not get funding for my master's, because I thought, well, I'm gonna apply for master's in September. Then once I know I'm successful, then I will apply for NRF maybe end of September. And guess what? WITS had closed around July. So I had to fund my own studies. I had to work to fund my studies. That is a topic for another day, but I'm just telling you now that even if you do qualify for NRF, if you decide to apply late, you are not going to get funding, unfortunately. And paying for own fees is so expensive, guys. Like, I literally paid 60,000 rands on my own for my master's in 2021. And let me tell you, it was a painful process. Very, very painful. And that time I qualified for NRF, you know, because I used NRF for my honors and I'm using it now for my PhD studies. So don't make any mistakes of not checking when is the university actually closing. And then another important thing I want to say on this is because a lot of times when you apply for NRF, we are probably still studying and we're not sure what we're going to do next year. And this is specifically for masters and PhD students. Now, find out who is the HOD of that department and put that person as your reference for your research project, especially if you do not have a supervisor yet or you do not have anyone else to talk to yet regarding your project. Number two, very, very important, especially when you're applying for a PhD and are funding, always work on a proposal. A proposal, because that's one of the things that are going to need for your application. A lot of times people are rejected because of proposal does not meet the standard for NRF application, or is not well thought, does not meet the scarce skills of the NRF, it does not meet the research areas that they're interested in. So a proposal is one of the core things for your application. So don't just write anything for the sake of applying. It's just a waste of time and you'll be rejected. So NRF usually releases a date of successful applicants around early January, sometimes late December, but oftentimes not after February. I know that's complicated. For now, let's just say you will know. PhD and master students are likely to know around December, but honor students are most likely to know in February. And when will the money or the funds be released? For me, the first time I got the funds were around, let me see, January, February, March, April. We're in April. And funds are released either monthly or quarterly. So at vets, they release funds quarterly, meaning you get money after every 3 months. So it comes as a lump sum for the first 3 months. You get the other lump sum second quarter. So it really depends on the university. And then, can I work when I'm using NRF? The policy says no. I had some people are taking my chance Lima Lotto. The policy has changed, guys. So the policy of 2022 is not the policy of 2021. Actually, the policy changed in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. There's a new policy that has been introduced in 2021, and you are not allowed to have a job. That's why, and this is an eligibility I do not talk about, NRF only funds full-time students and not part-time students. So if you're going to do your master's, your PhD part-time, NRF will not fund you. So that means you have to be in school, you have to be active and be a student. Because part of the progress reports, which is something that we'll talk about in another video someday, is that you need to be doing something in school. UNISA students are exempted from this criteria, I think primarily because of UNISA is an open distance learning institution, so there is no possibility for a full-time. Anywhere else, you'd have to study full-time. But I must say this to UNISA students, be careful to also understand what your contract means, because I know you also cannot participate in DSI, which is Department of Science and Innovation linked funding. So because you guys are studying part-time, then there's an opportunity for you guys to also work. I don't know what the contract says, but make sure that you do not apply for DSI linked internships. But just to be protected, do not work. I would advise you not to work. You're not allowed to work and have NRF funding. You have to choose. If you want to study and use NRF, cool. But if you want to work, then you cannot use NRF. And if they find out, I know people but try me shiga, if they find out, you're gonna pay back all the money. Same as when you do not finish your studies, you will pay back the money that you've been given. Same as when you decide to change your degree in the middle, you will pay back that money. Same as when you fail, you will pay back that money. So NRF needs a date of graduation. That's when the contract ends. Okay, the other thing I wanted to talk about was different grants. So I had to take my phone for this, so I'm going to look down. So you don't always have to apply for NRF General, because I know a lot of people apply for General NRF grants. So there are different types of grants that you can apply for. And I'm going to put this so that you are able to see it. So we have research chairs, fundings, we have Center of Excellence, COE funds, we have Tutuka funds, we have Global Research Program funds, we have African Earth Observation Network funds. Like, depending on what you're studying, there's Sarao funds, there is also SASOL linked funds, there is also researcher linked funds. So honestly, there are options. Just always be on the website to check out which grants you are eligible for, depending on what you're studying, what you and your supervisors are working on. Now let's get to how do you apply for NRF. So the first thing, you need to log into NRF Connect. I'm just going to show you the screen. You will also need to create a CV and a profile on NRF system. Then you need to create an ORCID or an OSCID ID, and then you need to submit your application. Make sure that your application is completed. All the red asterisks, do you call them asterisks? You will see the mandatory places. Make sure that you submit a full completed application. So I'm just going to take you through the system so that you just need, not the system, but just the guide. And this guide is available in PDF. You can actually download it and see how it works, what is needed. Please read to understand, read this information before you submit an application, because a lot of people are always in a hurry to make submissions without completing the right things, without doing what is needed, and unfortunately it's not going to work. You're just going to get rejected. For what reasons? So yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys did like this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Guys, please subscribe to my contents, because it really doesn't cost a thing and I really appreciate it a lot. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed night. Bye.